Wealth Nation, did you know that it is possible to create your own banking system? Well, guess what? You don't have to take it from us because we are actually going to be speaking with one of our clients today. His name is Brandon, and you can learn his whole journey from Brandon himself, and you don't have to take our word for it. My name is Carmen.
And I'm Darius. And when it comes to creating your own banking system, it's really important that you understand how to put yourself in the driver's seat. And that's exactly what Brandon did. So Brandon, if you don't mind, could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, Wealth Nation. Thank you, Darius and Carmen, very much for allowing me to come on. This is a great honor. So first and foremost, I'm Brandon. I've been on the banking system here for just under 2 years, and I've been with you guys. August will be a year. So in 10 months, I've been with you guys, and I can't get enough of everything you guys do. It's just amazing. I'm always learning. You guys are just amazing, and it's helped me so much.
Oh, thank you, Brandon.
Oh man, you know, one thing I want to say is that it's a two-way street because every conversation that we have, I feel like I take something from it. And when last conversation we had, I came in, I told Carmen about our conversation. I was like, you would not believe some of the stuff Brandon has going on.
He was hyped. He was hyped. He was like, man, we got to talk to Brandon. You got to learn all the stuff that he's doing. So we're just really excited to share your story because like we said, you know, we know the stuff that we're doing, but it's so awesome for people to just understand what other people are doing with their own banking systems. So we'll get into all of those juicy details in a moment, but what I would say first and foremost, Brandon, I just want to ask you, you know, the first question, which is, how did you find infinite banking in the first place?
To be honest with you, I started on the bank on yourself side of it.
Okay.
I was working a night shift, and on Sirius Radio, the ad comes on all the time, like, yeah, here's another scam that's going to come up. And I kept hearing it, and I'm like, man, that really makes a lot of sense. And they're like, we'll send you a free book. I'm like, all right. So I got that book, and it really, everything just kind of clicked. Like, this is the information I needed. Once I got into it a little bit, the bank on yourself end of it doesn't really get as in depth the way that you guys do, which is very much appreciated. I blew out my knee last year, and I had quite a bit of time off. I had almost 6 months off where I was just literally cramming in as much knowledge as I could. And, you know, I've got a job. I like my job, but it's very stringent and hard on my body. And there's so much more I think I could be doing other than working for somebody else. I stumbled across, I come across infinite banking, and you guys popped up, and I just instantly started watching all your videos, and I've been through them all. But it's really been amazing. You get Nelson Nasser's book. There's so much great information in there, and I'm just so amped up and ready to go as far as the way this system works. It's just amazing.
Right. Now, one thing I do want to say, I want to brag a little bit, Brandon, because when we first met, I remember seeing your spreadsheet of all the cash flow that you had in your household. You had money that was coming in, you had money that was going out, and you had your policy. You had every single thing lined out and color coded. And when I first met you and I saw that, I knew that this was going to be a very, very special relationship. And you have not disappointed, my friend. You have not disappointed.
No, it's true, because the minute we connect with people who are in tune with their finances, we're like, our people, yes, our people, because we know that if you already come to the front lines with a plan and understanding your finances and have an idea of what's going on, you will be successful with banking.
Yeah, because what that allows everyone to do is to have a conversation around specific numbers.
Yeah.
And when you have conversations around specific numbers and how they apply to you, you're able to get planned results.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just look at where I was years ago to where I am now, you know, ramen noodle budget, no car insurance, to where I'm sitting at now. It's a 180-degree turnaround, and it's the best feeling ever.
So answer one question for me. Why did infinite banking interest you? Because it seemed like you had everything all lined up. You knew exactly what you wanted to do. You said the ads came on, but what made you want to get involved with using life insurance as a vehicle to create your own banking system?
The whole thing, the whole concept itself, it's simple, but it makes sense. I've always been one of those type of people that I go against the grain. I've never been one just to follow along with, you know, the crowd. And I don't like the 401k. I mean, I don't like being told what I can and cannot do. That is one of the biggest things for me. And knowing that I'm going to be penalized or I'm going to be this or I can't designate where my money is going, I have a hard time not controlling that. And by using the banking system through infinite banking, I'm in 100%. I'm in the driver's seat. I can dictate exactly where everything goes. It's awesome.
There you go. So it's control.
Exactly, it's control.
Love it.
There's
Love
something to that, something we talk about all the time. And it's really important, like you said, with the control piece, because it's so easy with our finances in general to just not be in control and to let somebody else manage it, or to just not manage it at all. And the next thing you know, we're wondering why our funds are overdrafted, or where the money is coming from. So I think it is important, like you said, not only did you hear the ads, but then you said, wait a second, this actually makes sense. So what can I do about it? And how can I, improve my finances? And maybe let me check out this thing called whole life insurance.
One of
Awesome.
the biggest things with it there was, this would have been something my grandpa would have done. He was an engineer for Caterpillar. He graduated valedictorian of his high school. He was an extremely intelligent man, and he was a great inspiration to me. And this would have been something along the lines of what he would have done.
I like that. Awesome.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the wisdom, from our grandparents and the things that they would have gotten into is definitely important. Because I think there's so much wisdom to how people manage their money back in the day as opposed to now, because we're all just so consumed with immediate gratification that we can't wait a minute to try to figure things out.
And bells and whistles. I think infinite banking in itself, it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles. It's very simple. And because it's so simple, I think a lot of people don't quite grasp it.
And you touched on this a little bit. So I would say, like, our next question to transition into this is, you mentioned that it just made sense to you. So why did you take action? What made you pick up the phone and call us and say, hey, I want to start a policy?
Your videos just get everybody so fired up. You two specifically are just awesome. I just want to put that out there.
Oh, thank you.
But personally, just with what I'm doing, I like the fact, because how I started my policy, I actually took a loan from my 401k to initially fund it. I had that money sitting right there, and it just started the snowball effect to get my debt out right away. And just knowing that I could do that, and the journey that I'm on with that, it's just amazing to be able to do that now instead of just following along with the system like everybody else is, just paying the interest to everybody else. That's the biggest thing with it. I'm paying myself and not somebody else.
Now, when you talk about you had your 401k, because that's another tactic, some people don't even realize that they can use their retirement to start a policy, and you are already good with your funds. So for us, and to bring a little bit of transparency to this, is sometimes we have people that approach us and say, hey, I have a bunch of money in my retirement account. I want to cash it all out and I want to start a policy. And they're not good with their finances.
Yes.
So then for us,
that's exactly what that face was for.
Yeah, exactly. the hair on the back of our neck stands up and we're like, wait a second, how are you going to afford this policy long term? Because, this year you're covered, maybe next year you're covered, but then what after that? And as we all know, banking is a long-term play. So when you already came to us with your spreadsheets and you're like, hey, I want to tap into this, we were like, yes, we understand. We get it. It makes sense. And it makes sense for you to do so. So for those of you who are watching, I want to make sure that you listen to this nugget. Is there's so many different ways in which you can start a policy, but the biggest thing you just need to make sure is that you can afford the policy in the first place. And
I'd like to further,
go ahead.
If I could further expand on that, how I actually started my first policy, how I fund my first policy, I figured up, I took my pay stub and I looked exactly what I was throwing into my 401k every 2 weeks. And I literally diverted those funds into my life insurance policy. So I don't invest in my 401k anymore. It goes into my life insurance policy. So as long as you can afford it, that's the key.
Boom shakalaka. Thank you, Brandon, for that. That's
now,
what we need to hear.
If I heard correctly, you didn't change what you were doing. You just changed the direction of it.
That's exactly
There we
right. I'm
go.
just diverting funds. That's all I'm doing.
Pivot. That's all we're doing. And again, going back to the control, sometimes we feel that we're out of control, but then we don't stop for a moment and realize, where is all of our money going? And Brandon was like, hey, hold on a second. I'm gonna move this paycheck money over here so that I can control more of my funds and not have to invest my retirement. I can have more control of it, which will allow me to do whatever it is that I need to do.
Yeah. Now, interesting, Brandon. One thing I want to talk about is you have two policies now. When we met, you already had a policy. You already had your spreadsheets. You already knew exactly what you wanted. So, what have you learned in the past 10 months that you want to share with us?
Yeah, once you get going on this, yeah, we had this set up. I remember you last year. We initially everything up there. You're like, oh yeah, 3 to 5 years, you'll be good. You'll be okay. Literally in 10 months time, I am so happy to report right now. I am literally minus my house, my cell phone, my utility bill. Those are really my only bills in 10 months time by going headfirst into this. I mean, this time in January last year, I couldn't even fathom that at this point.
Wow. Wow. That's so powerful. Yes. That's so exciting. So elaborate a little bit on that. So talk to us about the transactions and everything.
And the switch.
Well, I'm sorry. And maybe we interrupted you because the question was, what have you learned, in this 10 months? So shed light on that.
Oh, in this 10 months, what I've learned, man, I don't even know where to start on that. I've learned so much. The biggest thing with this is you just have to be dedicated to it, and you have to hold yourself accountable. Those are the two biggest things. If you're not going to pay yourself back, then this isn't going to work for you. That is one of the biggest things I can make a point out to somebody else, that if you're not going to do that, don't waste anybody's time. But with it though, I mean, it's just simple, because like you were saying, we're just diverting money. That's all I'm doing. I'm not necessarily making any more money. And with this Corona, everything that's going on, I'm actually making less money than I was last time this year, but everything's still the same. I'm still funneling. As long as you have to set up a budget and you pay yourself first, like you guys preach on, that once you realize that keynote, I mean, things really fall into place from there.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for stating that, because you're so right. It sounds sexy and exciting at first. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna be on my own bank. But then when it comes time to start paying some bills, you're like, wait a second. I can maybe hold off this month, or maybe I can hold off the next month. And then next, your banking system isn't even working because you're not paying yourself.
Absolutely. Exactly. Now, one thing I do want to talk a little bit about is you went from utilizing the funds for yourself to now you're doing some small lending in your community. So how did you go from paying yourself back the principal and interest to now you're taking chances and giving out small loans? And what collateral are you using?
I wanted to get my feet wet in the lending part of it. That's what banks do. They lend money to people. So I'm like, okay, with everything that's going on right now, there's some people that are really hurting that can use some funds. What I came up with, I posted an ad on social media, your Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and just said, I'll do a personal loans, no credit check on it. And what I do, I have people come to me, and you have what I do is you have double down. So basically, if you want a $500 loan, you need to have $1,000 worth of collateral. So now that does one of two things. One, that safeguards both of us. They want their property back, and I want my money back. So if you do it that way, it really, both of you are safe. So, and with this, I've had firearms. So I had a guy come to me that had 2 guns. I took him down to a local pawn shop, and I know the lady that works there, she appraised them for free for me. I held the guns. We had a promissory note made up that they would pay back within an X amount of time at a 10% interest. And he had 6 months to pay it back, basically. Notary signed the promissory note. He paid it off early. I made $50 off the deal. I mean, $50 is $50, but it gets your feet wet in the lending aspect of it.
Hells yeah, that is so exciting. And if you guys didn't catch that, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Brandon posted an ad on social media I didn't even know that part. Darius left that story out. So for all of you who say, I have no idea how I could even get started. Are you crazy? Like Craigslist people. Oh my God, a personal loan. And Brandon was smart enough to say, hey, I really don't know this person either. So I need to CYA, cover my butt, and make sure that I have the collateral, because that's another thing. People are always like, how am I going to give money? How am I going to guarantee my money back? How do the banks do it? And they get collateral.
And one thing that I want to say, you said it was only $50, but the difference between $50 and $5,000 is the numbers, right? So if you have this idea and you understand the concept of it with a small amount, then you can apply it to the larger amounts. So $50 today could be 5,000 next year. It could be 50,000 a year after that.
Right.
So the rate of return or the dollar amount isn't what is necessarily important. It's the interest. It's that figure Carmen was talking about, is that rate of return that you were able to create, because it's all about interest.
Exactly. Because Darius and I did that with our rent. The one video that we talked about how we made money from our rent, we're like, oh, sweet. We pocketed like, what was it? An extra $2,000. And so
that was actually kind of where I got the idea from that.
Beautiful, exactly. And so if anything, we're like, sweet. And our mentor was like, do you understand what you just did? And we're like, yeah, we got some money, fine, and he helped us understand the calculations. So kudos to you. And then the other thing too is everyone goes, well, what do I use as collateral? You said firearms. Amazing.
And your relationship with the pawn shop.
Yeah, it's all about assets. Sometimes we don't stop and think and look around and say, okay, what do I have in my household that is worth some money?
Right.
Anything can be collateral. It doesn't just have to be your home or your car. Think about the contents in your home, and it could be jewelry, whatever it is. You can put up for collateral and make sure that you have your guaranteed payback. So that is so exciting. We love to hear that. And again, you just said $500. We're doing micro loans, ladies and gentlemen. How many micro loans do you want to do and flip all day long?
Yeah. There's a company like Payday Loans. They do micro loans. There's apps that do no more than $100.
Yep.
And at no interest, but they charge a fee.
Yes.
So that's a great return on their funds. So let's not overcomplicate it. Let's utilize the tools that we have access to. Just like Brandon did here. He utilized the tools that he had access to, the relationships that he had. He had social media. He had a relationship at a pawn shop, and then he had someone that needed funds who he helped.
Yep.
And now they created a win-win situation for one another.
And it's paid off. Would you do that again, Brandon?
Absolutely.
3 times on Sunday. So you had mentioned as far as like your bills, how you've stripped a lot of your bills. So talk us through some of the repayments that you've done as far as getting out of debt or just reducing your income, or that was going outside of your household.
Yeah, like I gave Darius a prime example here last week when I spoke to him as far as my cell phone goes. So you've heard of Straight Talk?
Yes.
Okay, so we have Verizon and AT&T in the area that I'm at, so it's very rural. We have a company called Selectel that's a lot like Straight Talk. So they only charge, I got 32 gigs of data a month, and it's $63. My initial cell phone payment that I was paying was $130 a month. So out of my initial policy that I haven't even touched yet, I took my first loan. It was $550 that I had to pay off my original cell phone. So I took that money, and it's $63 a month. So I just rounded everything off. So I'm putting $70 into my segregated account to pay myself back. So I just, again, with the rate of return, I'm not quite sure what it'd be, but I borrowed $550. I'm putting $700 back in that account in 10 months. And I'm not doing anything different, again, than just redirecting funds.
We're talking about our cell phone. Again, just what are the tools that we're using? We were talking earlier on another video about our own economy, our economy being Darius and I, your own economy, Brandon, and just talking about, the money that is constantly being spent every single month, we don't think about because it's just habitual. But, again, let's stop for a moment, our cell phone bill. How can we recapture some of those funds on our cell phone bill and make the money and keep the money that we're spending? So I think that's powerful. And it's, thank you, Brandon, just for taking the time to share because again, I just feel like so many people overcomplicate what banking is.
Mhm.
And if we just go back to the bare bones, banking is a place where you hold your money.
Yep.
And you pay bills from this bank. So why not control as much of it as we can?
Yeah, and banking, like what you're referring to as banking, the verb, the action. Banks are just a housing facility. The noun, like you said, is just a housing facility.
Yeah.
Banking is what you're doing. Banking is what we're doing. So it's really important that we understand that even changing a direction is banking,
Amen.
because money is continuing to flow in and out of our pockets.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, and oh, wait a second, guys. How much of this conversation have we mentioned a policy? Right? Not much. And I bring that up again is because, you know, so many people are like, oh, well, my dividends and the 4% and the 5% and this and
And the
that
company.
and that. It's like, you're not banking. We're not banking. What are you doing with the funds? Be branded. You know what I'm trying to say? You know, pay off your cell phone bill, reduce all of the income that is leaving your household. Go lend money, become a bank. Because all Brandon is doing is letting his money be housed in a policy, using it for the tool that it is, and then just, you know, going about his merry day, banking and spreading money around the world.
And winning.
And winning.
And winning. And, you know, another thing I want to bring up, Brandon, is opportunities that presents itself whenever you do have cash or whenever you do have access to funds. So you are thinking about buying a business that's a turnkey business, utilizing what you know in the systems that you have created for yourself to basically, you're trying to put your retirement on steroids in business. So tell me a little bit about that piece where you had an opportunity just kind of, I wouldn't say fall in your lap, but present itself and you have the funds to do it because of your understanding and your diligence with your finances.
That's exactly what it did. It fell in my lap, literally. My dad retired January, and he's had we worked at the same job, and my dad had a snowplow business for the last 7 years, and he's got a lawn mowing aspect of that as well. He's looking to get out. We live in a very cold area of the country. We're in the Midwest, and he's tired of the cold and the snow. So this is the last year that he wants to do the snow plowing business. So he's got 4 trucks. He uses one as a spare. He has all the contracts set up. We had it set up there where he would basically just get his contracts this fall, and then we would go in after the first or second plow and just say, hey, business is transferred over, same man or different management, but he's still going to be doing the work. I'm paying him the administration fee. I'm paying him the maintenance fee, and him to do the work. So it's literally turnkey. It's all passive income, and that is all it is. And the rate of return back on that, it's huge. I had a chunk of money with everything come up with the coronavirus that I have access to. So that's perfect funds to invest in that. I have 3 years to pay that back. I'll more than make my money back off of that. It's passive income, and that's what I'm trying to create.
There you go, and you're keeping it in the family.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Beautiful. It's amazing once your mind is open up to the money game and you understand how to play the money game, then buying Boardwalk in Park Place become really, really fun and exciting, and you're not worried about making your way around the monopoly board because you own the property. So I think it's really awesome that you're even thinking about the next steps to this, because you know, you started with cell phone, then we upgraded to personal lending, and now we're even looking at acquiring businesses in less than a year. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, if you could just understand how you can literally transform your life when you change the way that you think about your finances and when you decide to control it, anything is possible.
Right. And going back to what you said earlier, Brandon, you mentioned this one word that really is the foundation for how to start banking. You said budgeting. Budgeting is so important, and that's where you started from. You knew where every single dollar was and where every single dollar was being allocated for.
Yep.
That's how you started your banking system, based on your spreadsheet.
Right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's really important that we understand our numbers prior to getting involved with anything financially.
Mhm.
Understand how much it's going to cost you. Understand how much you think it's going to cost you 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Because you can very well be sitting in the same situation that we're all in, is we have funds to put in different places. We have funds to take advantage of opportunities because we had a budget and we got started.
Amen to that. So, Brandon, again, thank you so much for sharing your story. I want to transition a little bit to just questions that we get a lot and see what you think that the answers are, because it's just nice to hear different perspectives. So what would you say is the reason why people don't know about infinite banking?
I think one of the biggest things then is, I've mentioned this earlier there, that people are just so, what do I want to say, sheeps of the system. They just go along with what everybody else is doing, and they're afraid to try something different because they think it's a scam. I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is why I even mentioned this earlier there, that like when I initially started this, my girlfriend's like, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You know, and I thought about that, and she's right in an aspect of that, but you know, I am Peter and I am Paul. I'm making money off of both. So.
Oh man,
Mic drop, Brandon.
Drop some bars on us. I am Peter and I am Paul. Whew. I'm sorry, we got hype after you said that, and we missed what you said right after that. Whew. All right, I can compose myself.
Love it. Love it.
What were you going to say, Brandon? Because we did interrupt you.
Oh, I just said that, you know, both of us are making money. That's,
there you go.
Peter and Paul, we're all in the same boat.
Oh, that is genius. We've never heard that before. I love asking this question to everybody, because we need to make a shirt out of that. We're going to put it in your name, add it onto the Well Nation swag team, and we'll break you off what those profits are, Brandon. I am Peter and I am Paul. Woo, I love it. Okay, fantastic. So what do you think then, when people find out about banking, is their hesitation to get started?
Like you said, the instant gratification and the way that our culture is today, I think, is the biggest thing. People want everything now, and they can't budget. That's why everybody's in debt. That's why their credit cards are maxed out. They don't want to. It's like they zone out, or their eyes glass over when you start talking about finance, and it should be the complete opposite. I mean, this is the most exciting. Money is the most exciting thing ever to me at this point. You know, it's what I'm focused on. And if other people would change their mindset to that, great things could happen.
Absolutely. Now, what advice would you give someone that's kind of on the fence or on the edge of saying, okay, I'm going to do banking, or I'm afraid?
I would say know your numbers first and foremost. Know your budget. Yeah, I literally, I show a lot of. I have a friend that's actually got a phone call with you guys tomorrow, that I've just been in his ear, just as excited as I am about everything, you know, just talking all this stuff, and he's wanting to start. I want to show everybody, you know, exactly what I'm doing, and if they're agreeable to that, then absolutely you should get a policy if you want to keep doing what everybody else is doing. And I don't want to say the safe road, the stock market isn't safe, 401k isn't safe. This is safe to me because I can budget it, and if they can go along with that, I think they'd be okay.
Perfect.
Who knew that you could operate in a safe environment and have the control at the same time? Yeah,
and one thing everybody should understand is there's only two positions you can be in. There's not a fence. You can't be in the middle of the road. There's only two positions. You're either at the table or you're on the menu. So you have to make a decision where it comes to what position do you want to be in. I choose to be at the table every single time. And understanding finances is your opportunity to get a seat at the table, because everything involves money. Every decision involves money. So what we want to do is position ourselves so that not only can we have a better understanding of finance, but a better relationship with finance. So when opportunities presents itself, we can utilize those opportunities to make more money, so that we don't have to take as much time to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish, we can use our wit and our minds.
Preach, brother. Yeah, I think it's just another way to own your own lifestyle. We talk about it. Darius is wearing it. we talk about ownership, taking ownership, and you have to really look at each facet of your life. Today we're talking about finances, but are you taking?
We talk about finances every day.
Yeah. Are you taking control of your health? You know, are you taking control of your happiness, of your mental state? You know, in these days that we live in, it's really easy to blame other people for why we may be on the menu and not at the table, but it all boils down to, what are you doing about it? And so, you know, we love surrounding ourselves around people like Brandon, such as himself, where he came to the table and was like, this is what I got. And if anything, Brandon has been a teacher for us, because he's stood his ground and has been very honest and transparent from the beginning as far as what his goals are, what he wants to do. And then every now and then, you know, he'll poke us and say, hey, I need a nudge, you know, check this out. What are my options? What can I do here? And it's really just an opportunity for us to mastermind, to talk about
That's
money.
really what it is, Brandon.
Yeah, it's really just a mastermind. So that's one reason why we just love this opportunity to connect with you, Brandon, because you challenge us to think about things in so many different ways, and resources. I mean, you know, for us, for lending, I never would have thought of firearms as an asset, but you bet it's on my asset list now. So it's just all, we can learn from each other in so many different ways. And it's just really, really exciting, again, to be surrounded with someone such as yourself, who is pushing the needle at every given point, because it doesn't matter if it's $500 or it's $500,000. All we're doing is moving money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Brandon, do you have any closing remarks? Is there anything else you want to share with the Wealth Nation community that we haven't talked about today?
I just want to say thank you guys for this opportunity. You know, I'm a newbie opposed to where you guys are sitting at with this, but we're all in the same game together. So thank you for that. And then there are also, you know, you guys have challenged me to start my own channel, and I'm working on that. It's coming. So Next Level Tech, check it up on YouTube, because it's coming. So for everything, and there's going to be finance stuff in there too. I have a story to tell, just like everyone else. But if you want tech, computers, we're going to be in that game too. So
Brandon's your guy.
Brandon is your guy. So we'll link all of his information in the description below. And then of course, if you have been inspired by our conversation today and want to become a client, then also click on the link that we'll drop in the description below, so that you can get started with infinite banking. So Brandon, we're going to let you close this out. Remember to own your own lifestyle.
someone else will.
Bye guys. Have a great day.